A very good evening, Doctor. We are so honored to have you with us for this interview. Before we begin, I would like to give a brief introduction as to what Advancing Northeast is. Advancing Northeast is a digital initiative by the Northeastern Council, the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region, and the Northeastern Development Finance Corporation. It is designed to be a one stop solution that provides information and guidance to the youths of the Northeast by creating a learning ecosystem in terms of education, employment, and entrepreneurship. To easily facilitate an organic connection, we host career talks where we bring in industry experts from the Northeast itself to serve as role models and mentors to the youth. For this interview, our career talk will focus on the creation, founding, and most importantly, sustaining of a nonprofit organization. To walk us through this process, we have with us Dr. Rica Lamar, a practicing physician and the co founder of the non government organization Manbha Foundation. To start off, why don't you give us a brief on your academic life, Doctor?
Well, yes, I did my schooling in Loreto Convent, and then I went on to continue with college for my pre-university in the St. Mary's College, and then after that I went for my degree in medicine in Lady Harding Medical College. After that, then I started to work. In between, I did go for various trainings, counseling, and other related issues with regards to my work.
Thank you, Doctor. So, question would be, how has that led you from a practicing doctor to co-founding a nonprofit?
Well, I said, after my graduation from my medical college, I joined as a medical officer in Sun Care in the 1993 till 2002. Sun Care is a psychiatric home as well as a rehabilitation center. So there I worked with people who were having problems with drugs and alcoholism, people with mental health issues, and then I worked there with women, youth, homeless people, old age, people living with HIV/AIDS. What was common amongst all these was that they are, I would say, a marginalized group of people, who face discrimination and stigma. Even some of them have not even been able to stay in their own homes. Society looks down upon them, and they face a lot of issues of depression, even suicidal ideations. They also suffer both physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we also see, especially with regards to mental health, there are not enough services or infrastructure to help them with. And the family members also equally suffer. So when I was working with people who were addicted to drugs and alcohol, there we follow the 12-step program of the Alcoholic Anonymous and the Narcotics Anonymous. 12th step of this program says that they have to help others. Those who are in recovery, that is their last step, that is to help others, what is called as 12 stepping. I was approached by a few recovering people, who wanted to work for their peers, to help others. They had gone to seek help in government offices and UNODC, but, were not given any kind of support. So they spoke to me and I said, yes, I would like to be a part of their endeavor, would support them. What I saw that with my patients there in Sun Care, I was confined just the four walls of the institute. I needed to go out. I needed to see and understand better what their issues are, how their lives are, what made them become who they are. So I felt that I had to go out into the field, and being in an NGO, I think that I felt that would give me a lot of chance to really visit them in their own surroundings and environment.
Thank you, Doctor. So, we are aware that your various endeavors in several sectors of society has even earned you the title of youth icon in the state of Meghalaya. Could you elaborate on the significance of that title and if it has generated a positive response in your social work?
Well, yes, the Youth Icon Award for Social Work was conferred upon me in the year 2012, and that came as a surprise. Uh, and just to quote what was written on the certificate or throw light on what you had asked me, it is the spirit and accomplishment of individuals like yourself whose journey on the road less traveled embody the very essence of how communities can rise to higher places, emulating the exemplary of their own achievers. So may you remain a positive influence on this community and on the lives you touch. I do a lot of work with young people. Much of our young people have a lot of issues, addiction being one of them. You know, the ramifications of addiction is not confined just to the individual itself, himself or herself, but also touches the lives of the families that they live with. It is a psychosocial problem. So every aspect of their life is being affected. In trying to help them, not just through medical care, but I think understanding them, empathizing with their situation, and accepting them for who they are and respecting them, giving them that respect. That is, I think, one of the reasons why it makes recovery easier for them. And so, touching the lives of these young people, touching the lives of my other patients and others who come to seek help and making a difference and a change in their lives, I think that maybe is something that they feel touched and feel that they recognize what I do. And I appreciate that very much because, as I told you earlier, these are marginalized groups of people who others don't care much. Even in a hospital setting, if they go, they would be discriminated or stigmatized. Oh, so it's a drug addict. Oh, it's just an alcoholic. It's just a female sex worker. So they have no one to turn to. It is very difficult for them to open up and to talk and to seek help from someone. So I think being there for them is really what is important.
That's very true, Doctor. And we definitely thank you for your noble effort. And I hope that, being awarded this title sheds some light and also gives hope to the youth to work towards helping out the marginalized communities. Our next question is that passion is obviously necessary to be a social worker. But pragmatically speaking, it definitely will not be enough. So, from your own experience, could you enlighten us as to how one can build a foundation or maybe even a base for creating not only a fully functioning but also a thriving NGO?
Well, yes, of course, building a foundation, and the most difficult part is sustaining a NGO takes a lot of work. And I think at the start, the people you work with, the founders of that organization or foundation, you have to have a common ideology or where you can work together. Working as a team is very important. So when you have a common ideology, you can carry out your work without any hitches. Then, of course, you have to be clear your aims and objectives. What do you want to do with the organization? What kind of work do you want to be in? And then a vision statement. These have to be very clear from the beginning because it is important that the people working with you and you also have experience in the field that you want to work in. I do not mean just academically, but practical experience. Of course, then you get yourself registered under the Societies Act, the District Commissioner's Office. And then you have to have a constitution and memorandum, okay, where you have your governing board of members. These are all the legalities that you need to follow. But more than that, what I feel is that you have to start small. When you start the foundation, don't look for something that is huge because you are just starting and you need to learn. It is quality, not quantity, the kind of work that you do. It's not just a number game. It's not just statistics. Yes, most of the projects that we have, especially the government projects, look for statistics. How many people are you treating? How many people you've registered? How many people have HIV? How many people is into substance abuse? So it's not just about numbers. They have very high targets. You should achieve this in this month, as if they're not human beings, or as if the higher number of addicts makes them happier. We can't look at things technically. These are human beings. These are very sensitive issues. So I think we should look at quality, not quantity. And we should stick to our area of work. Many a time we see that many NGOs, and including ourselves, also maybe we say that we are enthusiastic and say, oh, let's take up that project, let's go on to this other field, let's include this, let's include that. But then that dilutes your work, and you're not giving efficient work to, and you're not doing justice to what you have set out to do. Like our motto in Manbha is dedication, perseverance, and integrity is very important. We cannot compromise with our principles in this very individualistic and very materialistic society. Sometimes NGOs and other organizations and institutes are being used just for profit making. But then we should understand that we are a non-profit organization. Yes, we need money to function. Yes, we need money to give our services and do the work. But then it is for that and that purpose alone, so that our beneficiaries get all the services that they need. And then we have to also have innovative ideas, go beyond the projects, go beyond how to make it more successful, in the sense that your clients can get, or your patients can get the most of whatever services you're giving. And it's very important that you get community acceptance. Okay, and that depends on how, what kind of service you give to them. That depends on the rapport building that you have with them, going the extra mile for them. Of course, staff selection is very important. With us in Manbha, we generally give a preference for recovering people, people living with HIV/AIDS, women. So these are our preference, but with appropriate training, we give them regular trainings, of course. And very important, what I feel is a good crisis response team, because we are dealing with people, who face a lot of legal issues, who face a lot of violence. So we have to have a good crisis response team. And this crisis response team can include lawyers, can include somebody from the police department, and then somebody from the community, the headman, where, we have emergency calls at night, a woman facing violence at night. We have to immediately go and help the woman and provide shelter for her. Her life is in danger, or an addict who has been beaten up by the community, or been caught by the police, or they need medication. So we have to respond. So the crisis response team has to be very good. So I think these are some of the pointers that we should look at when you're thinking of a good NGO, or we can sustain the work that we are doing.
Thank you so much, Doctor. That is very sound advice. Usually, we find that people who are quite passionate, they sort of lack planning because they're very enthusiastic. They do want to help. But then the reality is that there's several communities and marginalized groups that require help. And so to help each one, it takes a lot of energy. And so I guess, like you mentioned, you need to work for quality and not quantity because these are human lives we're dealing with. And I guess from your experience, we can see that providing just maybe just a select group, it may not help everyone, but it will help a few people for a much longer time. And I feel that that's quite important to note when we take up these things. So, like you've mentioned about your NGO, Manbha Foundation, could you give us more information on its aims, the vulnerable groups it works for, the projects you would like to highlight, or any other information you'd like to share with us?
Manba Foundation was established 2003. So it's going to be 20 years now this year. And thank you for this interview, because it's the first time that we really spoken about Manbha, or Manbha has been, out in the open about their work, and it comes at a very good time. Yes, a little bit. I just like to read out from our constitution and memorandum on the philosophy of Manbha. Like I told you, it was basically started by a few recovering people who had this felt need to help others. So this is what their philosophy is. We shall strive towards the healing process of the affected mind, which can only come through humility, oneness, and gratefulness to God for giving us the gift of life. Understanding through intense self analysis of our weakness, strength, and above all, hope through total abstinence to bring about positive growth in our lives and the lives of people around us. The healing spreads like ripples in the sea. This message of healing bases itself on philosophy of self-help as expounded by AA and NA groups for the last few decades. The counseling techniques that will be used is basically role modeling by recovered addicts who would be staff, who in turn, by their active actions and a lifestyle, influence those afflicted to undergo transformation themselves. It is this wounded healer who is able to most effectively address issues being evaded by the suffering alcohol and drug addicts. So, this is their philosophy, and we strongly believe and work uh, on this philosophy. A little bit on the aims and objectives of Manbha. We are dealing with people who are suffering from substance abuse, whether it's drugs or alcohol, dealing with people living with HIV, and then we are also working with women. Manbha Foundation is registered with social welfare under the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act. Okay, so we have a lot of women who come to us for help in case of domestic violence and any other forms of violence against women. Number one is our aims and objectives is to create awareness and educate people about the ill effects of alcohol and substance abuse and HIV/AIDS on the individual, the family, and the society at large, and also to evolve culture specific models for prevention of alcoholism and substance abuse and HIV/AIDS, and also treatment and rehabilitation, and then also to promote collective initiatives and self-help endeavors among individuals and groups vulnerable to addiction, affected and infected by HIV, AIDS, or found at risk, and also to establish appropriate linkages between the state interventions and voluntary efforts in the field of prohibition of and prevention of HIV/AIDS and drugs. Okay, and we also have uh, to work for the welfare and development of women and children by advocating for the rights of women and children, creating awareness and educating women on their rights, providing economic empower of women, providing health services, and providing counseling, protection, shelter, assistance of any form to women facing gender violence. So these are, our aims and objectives of Manbha. So, I had already spoken about, the groups of people that we work with, and we got presently we have our existing projects are from the National AIDS Control Organization through the Meghalaya State AIDS uh, uh, Society here in Meghalaya. So we have two projects. These are called as the targeted intervention projects for high risk groups. So we have a TI for injecting drug users, and the second is a project TI project for female sex workers, uh, transgenders, and men having sex with men, and also with the LGBT community we work. And of course, other than this, we also have a drop-in center for female sex workers and single women, and also a drop-in center for drug addicts and alcoholics in July. So besides that, for awareness and prevention strategies, we get aid from the district commissioner's office, like the voluntary mm, Association Fund, and then the Chief Minister's Youth Development Fund. And then we also get other grants from social welfare, a yearly grant. Okay. So these are the projects that we're working on, and we also work. We have trainings and workshops. We have students coming in for placements and for their internships from outside the state, and also from colleges in and around Shillong.
Thank you, Doctor. I feel that the motto, it really resonates. It just gives you hope, especially since, like you mentioned, you work with such marginalized groups, and the people who you work with, the staff who help, are people who are recovering or recovered addicts. So it really gives, a much more personal connection to the groups who are still undergoing, I guess, the addiction, right? They do have some kind of hope that, oh, I can recover from something as severe as this. So thank you so much for what you do, doctor.
Welcome, welcome.
So our next question is, uh, obviously there are challenges and responsibilities associated with this field of work. How would you say, how far has the Northeast come in terms of creating a work ecosystem in this field, like this line of social work?
Okay. Since I, work in this aspect, dealing with addiction and mental health, and I would say that, Northeast is uh, an area which is, has a very high numbers of drug addicts, being very close to the Golden Triangle, you know, and mm, I think, in fact, Manipur is one of the states in India where the first HIV case was detected, and that too through injecting drug users. So the problem of drug abuse in Northeast is really, really severe compared to other states of India, apart from Punjab now, which it is growing, and even in South. Uh, and so I would say the Northeast has taken up steps. The government has started work with the Northeast on this respect. Earlier, in fact, when compared to the other states. But for Meghalaya, now this rise in drugs has been recent. Uh, but Northeast as a whole, I think we are tackling a very difficult problem, both from the supply and the demand side. But I would say from the demand side, we have a lot of infrastructure in place, but it's just that the number of people who need help is much, much more, and requires much more means of services and infrastructure. Much more is required.
Okay. So, like you mentioned, like the Northeast has taken steps and measures, right, to combat this. Do you think there has been an improvement for, like, the steps taken from the past to the present?
Well, I would talk about Meghalaya because I'm more familiar with Meghalaya. So if we are looking at maybe 10 or 15 years earlier, um, we really didn't have so many services or facilities or infrastructure for people. There was a lot of stigma and discrimination also at that point, which I feel now it's come down. uh, earlier on, for example, like people living with HIV/AIDS were very stigmatized, and they weren't even accepted in hospitals if they had any medical problems. As soon as people knew they were HIV positive, they would be sent out of the hospitals. So their rights were highly violated. Okay, and they were discriminated in schools and even in the society itself. But now that has come a long way. And we also see that through advocacy in the state of Meghalaya, we had the Meghalaya Forum on Drugs and AIDS, where a group of NGOs working in this field came together, and we made a small film on people living with HIV, and they voiced their demands there. And so after that came the ART center, and then the testing also improved. We had mobile ICTC, and there's a decentralization of the services. It went on to the different various districts, and so in that way we see it's come a long way. And then even if when you're talking about women, we have the Meghalaya State Commission of Women that has been set up. Even the Commission for Child Rights has been set up. We have laws in place, acts in place. So especially like the Domestic Violence Act, we have the protection officers, and then the police, women police. So these things have really come up. We have also one stop crisis center there in in the hospital at Ganesh Das, where a woman could come and get the help. Their shelter homes, government shelter homes also. So we see that yes, government has stepped up, and there's a lot that has happened, but we still need more.
But I guess the good thing to note is that there has been improvement. I mean, from back then where these vulnerable groups were highly stigmatized, now it's been recognized that they do require help. Their rights are being recognized as well. And, steps have been taken to ensure that they do receive the help that they require. So I guess
Yes.
we are on the rise to development. So I guess that's a very good thing.
Yes, we have hope. We have a lot of hope for that.
Yes. So the next question would be on this avenue, right? There are several students now who are quite enthusiastic about working towards this goal of a social worker. Could you, from your personal experience, having co-founded your own NGO as well as working in the field, could you let us know what skills would be crucial or mandatory, or even what educational background could serve as a framework towards this goal?
Yes. Like I said earlier, we have several students from different institutes, who come to Manbha for their placements and to learn. So we even have students of BD, pastors and from Mauklot Seminary who come. That is a very important step that a faith-based organization us, taking up steps to really understand the realities and the issues of what is going on in our society, because they play an important role. So anyway, coming back to the qualifications, most of our projects, and I would say, yeah, what is ideal would be students of social work, whether they are bachelors or masters of social work, then of sociology, then psychology, because these, even with a law background, we've got staff coming from these various backgrounds, and it really helps. And I think, of course, very important is training, an intensive training, so that they can use whatever educational background that they have to make use of it. But regarding the skills, I think one important thing is communication skills. Here, as you understand, we are dealing with people, like I said, who are marginalized, who find it very difficult to open up. They live in fear, or that people will stigmatize them, or they will ridicule them, or they will just reject them. So it is very difficult to break through to them. So communication skills is very important, and empathy. I feel that it's very important to have that empathy, not sympathy, but empathy, a basic understanding of what they're really going through, an understanding of, you know, an acceptance and acceptance of what they're going through, you know. And this is very important. And of course, working in an NGO is not easy, because it you have to give it your all. There's nothing like, this is my job. My job is a project manager, or my job is a MNE, or my job is, a counselor. No, when you're working in an NGO, if there is no one to do the job of an MNE, you have to step in. If you have to go to the field, there is a crisis, like I said, it can be anyone, so you have to be ready at all times, to be there to help in whatever way you can. So in our trainings also, we train basic, to all of them, the basic issues, and especially emergency and crisis issues to all, so that whoever are present can go and get the help first. Because especially with drug addicts, there are cases of overdose. So we've trained our field workers, on how to administer certain drugs, or how to help them. So things like that, so that willingness to work, and help in whatever situation you are. And then also, I think it is important also that the person can have should have some leadership skills, because you're going to go to the community, you're going to meet uh, community stakeholders, like headmen, you're going to meet the police, you have to do advocacy with them. You have to be able to be confident and know your subject, and present it to them, advocate to them, so that you get what you want, and also rapport building, linking with different centers, because we all need to work together. Okay, and then also go out and meet people, talk to them, arrange programs, awareness programs, so things like that. These are all qualities that every staff need to have in an NGO.
Yes, it's quite reassuring to note that it's not just an educational background that is important, but just certain skills that we utilize in everyday life, like just being empathetic towards someone's situation, or even taking initiative. I love how you mentioned that despite having educational qualifications, they still undergo training so that they're more sensitized to the reality of the situation, and not just depend on the theory of what they've learned. So I guess
Yes.
that would be reassuring to a lot of the youth if they want to be a social worker and they think that they lack the necessary skills or the educational qualification. So
Thank you.
yes. So, Doctor, this next question would be from your perspective, right? Having worked almost 20 years with your NGO, what do you think we can do to inculcate the sense of responsibility in society, to not only be verbal in their support, but also to contribute to the social sector?
Yes, this is very important, because, like I said, our, society is becoming more of an individualistic society and more of a materialistic society, where, principles, maybe even morals, are really low. And, it's each person for himself, I think it's very important that we start with the young people. I have tried this initiative, or rather, I am, taking up this initiative at the church level. But I belong to the Laban Unitarian Church, so I try to, teach the young people on the importance of voluntary work, charitable work, to involve them in various, charity work, and also to give. to give to others. It's not always about taking, but it is about giving also. That is very important. So this sense of voluntary voluntarism, as I would call it, should be embedded, should be taught early. You know, most of us were taught. We came from convent educated schools. We were taught there. We helped out, and that, I think, is the foundation. And so till you grow up, that was always there with you. So we start with young people. We can start at the various faith-based organizations. We can start in schools, you know having these kind of programs. Then we can have value education, you know like we used to have a subject, socially useful productive work, SUPW. So that should be again taught in schools. So I think these values, these principles that we teach the children when they're young, even when they grow up, they're deep rooted and they're already set in their minds. So that is one way to start, I think, for this society, to bring up more people who will be able to contribute to the society.
Yes, that's a very good initiative you've taken up, Doctor. We, like the saying says, charity begins at home. And like you mentioned, right now the world is quite materialistic and morals are being compromised. So it's good to see that there's one leader, a role model to help the youth. Maybe if they're led astray at home, they have other communities in which, they can gain some positive influence. And I, like you mentioned, this materialistic society, we are so concerned with taking rather than giving. And it's funny to see how the most poverty stricken, they are the people who are the most generous, because they have themselves experienced how poverty can affect and change one's life. So it is quite a beautiful initiative to help the youth see that it's not mostly an I society, but it's mostly an our society. So
Art
give
society.
back how much that they've gotten and received. So that's quite a
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful initiative, and I really commend you on that, Doctor.
Thank you, thank you. And also, I feel that what we call as collective responsibility, that should be there in our society. We should have that sense of collective responsibility towards the needs
Yes.
of the members of our society. At the very, especially the social needs, which is very, very unaddressed, especially by our leaders and our political leaders who are there today. um, and now it's election time, so perhaps social issues are the last issues that are being addressed. Maybe promises are made, but we usually don't see them really giving this importance, which is very, very necessary.
We are at the end of our interview. It has been amazing. Thank you so much, Doctor. The last thing I would like is for you to offer some advice for the people, the youth, people tuning into this interview. What would you like to say to them, Doctor?
Well, especially for young people, I would like to say that they are a group of people who can help so much. They have that zest, they have that energy, they have that passion. This is the time of their life where they are so passionate about everything they do, about what they do. So my request to them is, please give to others. That is, it will make a lot of difference to you and to them. So that is just my humble request to everyone.
Like you
Thank you.
mentioned, everyone can be a change maker if they take just a single step towards change. And I
Yes.
guess that comes to the end of our interview. Thank you so much, Doctor, for giving us your time. We definitely have learned quite a lot. Uh, And I think from your experience, you definitely have shared so many nuggets of wisdom, and we are so, so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity too. And on this year, on the 20th year of Manbha Foundation, this is really an opportunity that I feel very, very grateful for, and also the whole of Manbha team. Thank you very much, Lisa, and to your project too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.